All right, well, great to be here on a Monday, last week of the regular season with a whole lot to play for. First, for reflection on Saturday's game. I think the film yesterday, bared out what we felt. I think walking off that film that we played really well when we had to. I know that second half really drug on, but we got a lot of guys in the game at the same time, and the guys, it's valuable experience for them, but. That first half, as far as a combination of, I think a big play offense, certainly a big play defense, and then you look at the balance in the special teams. How we didn't have any like big returns or anything, but we really had an edge with Brendan's ability to kick the ball into the end zone, and there was a good wind, and then his ability to punt the football. So it was a type of performance that we needed, I think, to show our continued improvement this time of year, and obviously position ourselves for this upcoming game, and continuing to be able to chase after everything that we intend on. And with this game, there's so many layers to it. The first one is obviously the in-state rivalry, which is tremendous, and it means so much to so many. And that starts with all our Montana natives on the roster. The 40+ guys who, whether they have buddies on the team that they grew up with, they played high school football with. We got a couple guys on our team that had fathers, grandfathers that played over there, and then we have multiple that had the same play here. With all that being said, you want to do everything you can, for those guys to have that ability to, through the next year to walk tall, to have those bragging rights, but. More so than anything, we need to continue to find a way as a football team to keep getting better. And, in Montana, it's extremely talented, much improved through the course of the season football team. A team that's doing it with a very aggressive defense, and an offense that, as of late has really been, consistent and put up some big numbers, both rushing and passing. And they're always good in the special teams. And of course, playing over there in a hostile environment is a challenge, and I think our guys are not new to a hostile environment this year, and there's been some good, some bad with that, but this is an environment unlike any that we've seen, and we're going to have to go over there and really be a focused football team that is concerned first and foremost about the play in front of them and executing that play, and really playing our tails off. I think our consistency and our effort and our preparation has been there all season, and there should be no reason for that to change as we head into our 11th game here, and go out there and play our very best, and see how that looks for us at the end of the day. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
You've talked about playing complementary football a lot, and last week you guys were almost an exact even split, rushing and passing. I was just curious, how you think you guys pulled that off, and what do you think of that?
Yeah, we want to not only have the run game and the pass game within our offense complement each other, but then also, how our defense, our offense, and our special teams play together, all work in concert. But, offensively, felt like maybe in the couple weeks prior we hadn't taken enough shots, and if we were going to throw the football, we needed to take some shots downfield. We had guys wide open in large part because the safeties are down inside of 10 yards, and that's not the first team that's played us that way. But I think in Ty and Cleveland, maybe in particular, a couple guys that can really stretch the field, and we were able to get them in some open spaces and create some big plays. And we didn't need to maybe get that rush game going quite as much, but then then end the day like that and have the balance that we had, I think was certainly what we were seeking.
And then I know you kind of mentioned after the game, but Sean and Brendan getting Player of the Week honors this week. Curious what you thought about that.
Yeah, Sean's per play production, that's hard to beat. So, for him to get that honor and only play in the first half and however few plays he played, I think was deserved. And then, Brendan, I think continues to be, a real weapon for us. And I know there's been maybe some other games that he was deserving of that award, but for him to get it, I think shows that this is this guy that's continued to kick the ball into the end zone. He's well over 60 now, I think, in his touchbacks, and then that punt average just keeps creeping up there, and I think he's above 47 right now, and I know we're right up there in that punt. That's a large part just the way he can get the ball down the field and the hang time that he's getting.
How special is it that you guys have been able to play for the Big Sky title in this game every year of your time here?
Yeah, I think when I got the job, I certainly recognized the importance of this game for just this game and the opponent, and what it means to the state. But additionally, felt like this game being the last game of the year, you want to be playing for conference title. You certainly want to be playing for how the playoffs are going to shake out. So yeah, for 3 years into it, all 3 years, to have it come down to this Saturday in all those aspects, that's what we're working for. And we got to do our very best to still just make it about the game, and the tremendous opponent that we're facing, and between those white lines, do everything we can to keep it that simple.
And last year, they had one of the best rushing defenses, and knew they were coming in to trying to stop it, and you guys were able to rush for 400 plus. Do you think that's kind of just the nature of your plus run game against their 3-3-5? Is there more? I mean, I'm sure there's more to it than that. But.
Yeah, I think we played really well in that. When that game got going, and then I think our third touchdown is off a bad snap. We made some plays defensively to allow that thing to continue to open up, and maybe it became a tidal wave that day. But anytime that we can involve the quarterback against whatever defense it is, that poses a challenge to the defense. And slicing it up as far as how that team chooses to defend us versus maybe some other teams is typically a little bit different. I don't think we can go in there and just say, just because we did it exactly this way last year, we can count on doing it exactly the same way this year. I know they got new coordinators on both sides of the ball, but generally their package on both sides of the football is very similar. But there's nuances to a different coordinator calling those plays on either offense or defense. So specifically the defensive side, it is a battle of wills. We want to run the football, and they've been very good at stopping it, and something has to give, and our ability to find ways to run the football will be a huge key on Saturday.
You mentioned kind of the tidal wave in that last game in 2021. I mean, obviously a big special teams play in that one as well to really put that game in their hands. I mean, how much do you feel like the momentum and special teams especially are important in this game?
Yeah, I think momentum can be. If you're on the right side of the momentum, can you keep it going? If you're on the wrong side of the momentum, can you stop it? And I think back to 21, we gave up that early touchdown. They obviously grabbed the momentum right from the start. We had a chance to answer that with an offensive score, and we didn't do that. We moved the ball down the field, but we didn't ultimately answer with a touchdown. So that momentum kept picking up. No different than last year. We go down our first drive and score. They answered it, but then we were able to score, get that special teams play, and then we never gave it up really. So yeah, momentum's huge, but if you're on the wrong side of it, you better find a way to at least stop it. I think that's the case in any football game. And when the margins are so thin, like they're going to be on Saturday, you got to do everything you can to be on the right side of that equation.
Is there an injury update going this week?
Yeah. So Drew Polidor will be available. So he'll go through the week of practice. I know Blake Stillwell has really played well the last couple of weeks. Fortunately for us, I know Danny Louis-Keppel will be available again where that fits. I know we've ran with Nolan and McCade since Danny went down, and to have Danny back in the mix will be I think will be really good for us. And then on the offensive side, I think Trent Pickering will be practicing this week. We'll see where that gets us come Saturday. I know Aiden Garrigan's been out. He'll be back. So I would think that would be the four primary that I would want to address. We didn't, as far as last week went, none of our starters, none of our regulars had any issues.
I guess as far as UM's offense goes, they've used a couple different quarterbacks. What have you seen from that side of the ball?
Well, I think in going to one quarterback primarily in McDowell, they've kind of settled in. I think given the timing of his transfer, I'm sure, that was post spring ball, so that was a challenging adjustment. Where's he going to fit, and you really have to let that kind of play out through the course of the early part of the season. And ever since they went his direction, they've been productive, and he's he's a guy that's capable of certainly making plays with his arm and with his legs, kind of a classic dual threat. And I think what you see from him is I think a really good competitor. I think he brings an energy, just the way he plays, to that offense, and he's certainly opened some things up. He's really, I think, forced defenses to defend more. And I know as of late they've been playing the young kid. I had a little bit. I don't know, watching the game the other night, I know he played before the half in that 2 minute, and then he came back in. So where he'll figure in, I think we got to be prepared for that. He's clearly that next guy up for them right now, and he's a really capable passer for a young kid. Looks really poised out there. So, I think they've really, found themselves, I guess is how I would put it, with McDowell, and he's played really well.
And I know you mentioned the rush defense, but even just what have you seen from that secondary and kind of just, I guess, the rest of those guys in that ball?
Yeah, new faces relative to who was on that field last year. They turned over, I just defensively, quite a few guys, but it's the same type of formula, meaning they're playing a lot of guys. They rotate a lot up front, they rotate a lot at the linebacker positions, and then in the secondary they've played quite a bit. They roll their safeties a bunch. So I think they're playing all these guys. They're not seeing that level of any kind of discrepancy depending on who's out there, the way I see it. So those guys are fresh. They fly to the ball and they tackle as well as anybody that we've seen. I know that, and they do it without saying, boy, if we can figure out a way to minimize this one guy. It's not like that with them. It's the defense. You got to be able to block their defense. You got to make their defense miss tackles. When you throw the football, you got to protect, certainly, and then you got to find a way to get open. They do stress their corners, no different than they have in the past, and they've held up pretty well through the course of the season.
And I know you kind of mentioned the momentum swings the last few games, but some huge special teams plays in the last few games as well. And I guess, how are you viewing that kind of third phase of the game?
Yeah, it's going to be a determining factor, and we've been good in our coverage teams, and I think that's goes without saying. A lot of that's Brendan's ability to kick the ball in the end zone, and based on how the weather looks on Saturday, we should have a chance to do that. He's punted really well and turned the field over, but on the flip side, they got one of the best returners in our league, if not the country, in Junior Bergen, and he was impactful 2 years ago in a lot of different ways, and last year we didn't punt. So if we can keep it at that, that's a better way to do it. But if we have to punt, Brendan's got to be able to place that ball, get hang time. We got to go down and cover. On the return side, again, probably the same thing goes. We're probably not going to get these great opportunities in the kick return game from the way it looks. But then the punt return game, Taco's really done a good job of stabilizing that for us while not getting maybe a great opportunity. And we just got to keep working for that opportunity. I know on the other side of it, we've been able to get our hands on 4 punts. There's actually 2 that we did the other day. Julius got it, got a fingertip on that one and deflected. So you think about having the ability to block punts. That's something I know that has been a real asset while not having that, those big plays on the return side. So they've always been good in special teams and take a great deal of pride in it, and we do as well. And I'm certain that there's going to be some of the momentum that is changed one way or the other, and we got to do our best to make sure that works in our favor.
Any kind of anything you haven't mentioned, anything subtle about going to Missoula that you learned from that first game that you're going to take into this one that you haven't mentioned last year or anything like that?
Well, I think very clear what that environment is all about. It's about a very passionate fan base that is going to be at a fever pitch, and you have to be able to recognize that going in, and be able to play within the challenges that presented, and that's noise, certainly. I think that experience when I spoke to it after that South Dakota State game, that better pay some dividends at some point for us. We didn't handle it well that day. I thought when we went over to Idaho, while Idaho I don't think compares to Washington Grizzly as far as noise, it was a noisy enough environment. I thought we handled that piece of it that day. So, we got to be smart about limiting those situations where we can put ourselves in harm's way as far as dealing with noise. And then I think our guys, there has to be a maturity about yourself going over there, recognizing, okay, what is this? This is a great college environment, college football environment. These are the situations that you dream about growing up. And leave it at that and recognize it's about the game. If you get caught up into worrying about what people are saying to you or at you or anything like that, then you're not locked into what the game is all about. So make it about what's between those white lines, be able to be as focused as possible given the noise in particular, and just go after it. Play the game on our toes versus on our heels, be aggressive. And I don't know that we did that 2 years ago. And they, like I said before, took that momentum and we never really captured it back. So be able to withstand some things, be resilient, act like we've been there before, and go after it.
And after that South Dakota State game, obviously false starts being a big issue. Was there, I forget if you mentioned there's like a cadence change you guys did or anything specifically with
Yeah, I think we had to refine what we were doing there. I think we weren't really locked in to what we needed to be locked in on that day. And I think we have the ability kind of post that game, if we need to get under center just to be that much closer to our linemen, we can do that because we didn't do it on that evening. So yeah, there were some subtle adjustments that had maybe strayed away from us and hurt us that night.
Nolan and Sean mentioned you had some guest speakers come in and talk to the team this week last year. I guess are you going to have the similar?
Yeah, we will. What you want to get is a blend of former players from different eras, and I won't get into who it is necessarily, but I think speak to what this game means to them, what the games that they played in meant to them, and then how did you get prepared for playing this game, whether it was in Missoula or here in Bozeman. I think those are the things we want those guys to share with us, and just again add another level to our preparation as far as going over there.
Anything else in the room? Coulter, do you have anything?
Yeah, hey coach, can you hear me okay?
Gotcha. Yep.
Couple things. You mentioned just the rotations on the back end for Montana's defense. Looks to me like they're doing a bunch of different coverage stuff on the back end too. Do you see that?
Well, I think they're every bit as aggressive, if that's what you're alluding to. They put those corners on some extreme islands. They put their field safety on an island against a slot receiver quite a bit. I think those guys, their strong safety position, their nickel position, whatever you want to call them, are down in there even more so. And then they have the ability to play coverage and to rush 4 or even rush 3 at times, and do it out of a pretty similar initial shell. Maybe there's some level of their overall disguise and getting in and out of it that looks like it's got more to it this year.
They used to, I know they still do because they put, like you said, the nickel and the safety down the box a lot, but the one guy that runs the alley, it seems like that's not maybe as prevalent of a thing. Did you see that change in the back end of the defense?
Yeah, that's fair. I think because that's 4 and 25 are the ones playing that position. Yes, and that was where Robbie played, and yeah, I think you're adjusting your personnel a little bit. I think that skill set really fit Robbie. I don't know that it doesn't fit these guys, but I do think that's a difference. I look at how Meyer plays sometimes. You almost think he's playing that position, but he's not. He's playing a different spot, but maybe it's they're built similarly or something like that, and they tackle real well in the alley. So yes, I think same package. Now each year, what you do within that defensive package or offensive package, your personnel does dictate it. And obviously Robbie had played a long time, and like I said, to have him downhill in the alley was a big part of what he did really well. So I would think that's a fair reason why they may be adjusted.
You guys on offense, one of the things you do really well is make people miss tackles. And you just mentioned that Montana's so good at open field tackling. So how big of an element is that in this matchup?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, we made them miss quite a bit last year, and we probably didn't the first year. And I think that's just a great starting point. Do you get your rushing game going? Are they able to stifle you? And I think we certainly pride ourselves in, forcing a team to defend us sideline to sideline in the run game, and this day can be no different. But when we get those opportunities with relative space, we got to be able to make some guys miss. And I think the other thing beyond the tackling piece that they do, I think their outside, their perimeter defenders do a really good job of forcing it back to the free hitter. And then those free hitters are dealing with less space, I guess, is simply put, and they can really string some things out, and that's when you're really in trouble. When you are going sideline to sideline. So, we gotta be unpredictable as far as where we're attacking, but we still have to be able to attack the whole width of the field.
You got two veteran quarterbacks, but neither one of them's actually started as a Cat quarterback in Missoula. So how do you go about preparing them just for all the exterior stuff?
Yeah, I think you go through the week, and any time that we're going to go into a hostile environment that does have noise, we got to practice with noise. At least in portions of our week. And I think the one thing, they haven't started over there, but they've both played in some loud environments. I think you certainly hope that their maturity will allow them to not only function but to thrive as far as their ability to communicate, their ability to not panic. I think those are situations that can unravel in a hostile environment if all of a sudden that panic piece comes into play, and you're trying to make a 14 play all of a sudden, or 21 point play that just don't exist. So what you see a lot of times is, whether it's in Missoula or any other hostile environment across our country in college football, is quarterbacks can unravel, and if your quarterback unravels offensively, you're in trouble. So I like our guys' experience. I like their poise. I like their general, I think we got two guys that feel like, okay, let's go after it. Let's go compete. This is what this is why I'm at a place like Montana State, so I can go over to a place like Missoula and play in a big game and really give it everything I have.
And McDowell, when he gets on the edge, it seems like he's even more dangerous. But have you played several quarterbacks in the last 3 weeks, like McCoy and Bismaris, that do that same thing? So do you think that helped prepare you for this style of a guy?
Yeah, I looked through the last 4 of 5 games. Let's take Cal Poly out of there. We've had really good mobility at the quarterback. You talk about Portland State, Idaho certainly, and then the last 2 home games. In Northern Arizona and Eastern Washington both mixed it up a little bit with how their run game was going. They got a little run heavy based on who's playing quarterback, but regardless, he brings the element of being able to extend plays and the design quarterback run piece that I think we've had a chance to prepare for quite a bit as of late. And all that being said, he's a little bit different style. He's a bigger guy than a lot of these guys we've faced. I think that's where he's been really effective, is just his ability to be hard to bring down. The athleticism is one thing, but rarely does the first guy bring him down. So no different than a big running back. We got to really tackle him well, and obviously limiting their run game, and his portion of that will be a huge factor in our ability to have success.
And your secondary's been playing really well. Their receivers are really, really good. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, it's a heck of a matchup. I know that and it's certainly not one guy. I think between Junior, between White, Fonts, Racanelli, I know jumped in there this past week. That's not even to mention Ryan Simpson. They got a deep bunch there, and it's a really a good mix of speed guys, some size in there. They do a good job of getting guys open, and I thought the other night in particular, maybe the last couple games, that he has a lot of time back there to process things, and those longer developing concepts. They're moving through first read, second read, third read, and guys are wide open. So it's twofold. We got to be able to cover, but we got to be able to get pressure. And we've been able to do that for the most part. But this is a whole new animal come Saturday.
Yeah, you mentioned just the free hitter in their defense. That's such a crucial concept. So often that's number 35 with Axon Hill. What sort of things do you see out of him on the field? I mean, he runs so well.
Yeah, they move those guys all over, and I say those guys, those linebackers. I mean, they're so let's call it just multi-dimensional as far as lining up on a tight end, lining up on a tackle, lining up at linebacker depth, and he's taken that position that Patrick O'Connell was so good at, and then done a lot of the same things in his own way. And then obviously the amount of plays that he's been in, I think he's at 80 tackles. I mean, I think that's pretty impressive. And the free hitter or not, if you're getting guys down, you're doing what you're supposed to do. So, he's been impressive. The whole crew is, because I think initially you look and say, boy, they lost a lot of guys. They lost a lot of guys throughout that defense, and there's certainly a few familiar faces. I think Governor up front is obviously a force. But otherwise, there's a lot of new faces, and they've continued to play at a really high rate. That's when you have a system. You have guys that are finding their way on the field. They're obviously, they're practicing the right way. They're doing all that kind of stuff, and that's what any good system you want. The next guy up is ready to do a lot of the same things as the previous guy.
You mentioned Saturday, just all the Montana guys in your locker room, and Sean and Nolan just talked about that as well. And sometimes this game, I mean, those guys playing to their top level is the determining factor. So how do you get them to get to that top level but not, be overwhelmed by the moment?
Well, I hope our overall consistency week in, week out is the starting point. If you're the type of guy that this is the one game that you play to a certain level and every other game you pretty ordinary, that's probably not the right formula. Not that our guys play, awesome every week. There are some ebbs and flows, but that consistent approach throughout the season, and really being focused on, hey, I'm going to be a guy that come November, I'm going to be a different player. And sometimes health is a limiting factor there, but I'm going to keep finding ways for me to get better. You put yourself in position here week 11, regardless of the opponent, to put your best foot forward. And the emotion of Saturday, you can't just get by on that. The emotion of Saturday, or what you think is going to happen, has to really fuel you through the week to keep preparing the way you need to. And I think that's what I look at more, is I look at our guys go about their business each and every week, and this week shouldn't be any different in that regard, because if we're all of a sudden putting all our eggs in how we prepare this 1 week of the year, then we haven't done justice to the other 10 games. So I think we've done justice to the other 10 games as far as how we prepared, and we're going to continue to do that this week.
Three matchup, I guess this will be your third matchup against Coach Howe. What do you think of just his coaching style? How would you just describe it?
Well, I think they're a team that plays really hard. I think that's the first thing. When you're looking on film, do they play hard? Do they love playing this game? And that's apparent, and I think that certainly comes from Coach Houck and his passion. They're well coached in all three phases. And I think you look at this year in particular, they've adapted. They made some changes within their coaching staff and who was calling plays, and I think that's a credit to a coach saying, okay, we're within the ballpark of what we want it to look like, how we want it to go, but let's be able to adapt. And I know there was some early close games that they worked through, but the one thing I recognize, that was a non-conference, they found a way to win. Obviously the stumble down in Flagstaff was probably alarming to a lot of people on that side, but they've certainly come out of that and continue to find their way, and that's a credit to, I think, his experience and his trust to his process. And obviously they've positioned themselves very well for this 11th game here.
And last one for me, I know you're from a small town. There's going to be small towns all across Montana watching this thing. I know some families even celebrate Thanksgiving early so they can get everybody together for this thing. So what do you think of that, That's pretty cool when you think about it.
Yeah. Being from a state that once had this game that was kind of on this pedestal, I don't think it's gotten back to that. But I do appreciate that no matter where you come from in our state, you're on one side or the other, or you're a person that maybe just moved here. I guess that's maybe the third element. But if you're on one side or the other, that runs deep within your community. That maybe runs deep within your family, and you want to be glued to that TV on Saturday rooting for your team, or you're in the stadium rooting for your team, and you want it to go your way. So the extension of who we are playing for is evident, and it's a really neat deal. And I the fact that we have so many of so many of our guys represent so many communities across the state, and the same goes for their roster. There's a lot of vested interest, and we want to make our side of that equation proud.
Real last one for me. I'm doing my Montana Made about all the guys in Montana that are playing in this game. I think it's so cool though that the most guys in this game are from Bozeman High School. So what can you say just about the high school that's right in your backyard producing Division I talent?
Yeah, that's it is remarkable. Whether it's remarkable or not, I don't know, but it was the biggest school, I suppose. So the odds are we're leaning in their favor. Obviously, the split now has produced guys from both Bozeman and Gallatin, but no, I think it's a credit to that program. Obviously what Coach Weshy's been able to do there, and now you split schools and they're vying for another state championship come Saturday. Coach Purcell before him, they obviously laid a great groundwork, because just because you have numbers in a school does not equate to having college football players. I think you have to have a program that develops college football players, guys that want to chase after it post high school. And obviously they have had a bunch of talented guys, but it's apparent that those guys were brought up the right way, and as far as just their approach to the game. And I'm sure glad we got the ones we do on our side.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck.
Just that you mentioned the practicing with noise. I guess can you specify or clarify what that?
Well, I think you just take segments of your practice and crank up crowd noise. It's really as simple as that. And I think is it completely equitable? Not necessarily, but you get it loud enough, it really focuses, allows you to focus, forces you to focus. It maybe is the greater word, because come Saturday, where you're going to be forced to focus. So having that mindset for the first time on Saturday, would be a mistake on our part. So we'll practice that, and it's not exactly equitable, but it at least gets your mind